The door to my apartment thudded shut behind me, the sound echoing in the empty hallway like a final punctuation on another 12-hour shift. My boots left wet tracks on the linoleum, rain from the small city's relentless drizzle soaking through. But it wasn't the weather weighing on me. It was her. Always her now. The memory hit like a sudden gust, our lips brushing in the dark, accidental, soft. Her breath caught, and mine did too. In this tight-knit place where everyone knows your business, that moment could unravel everything. Our friendship, the one thing keeping me grounded here, hung by a thread. I couldn't shake the warmth of her mouth, the way it lingered. But to understand how we got here, I need to go back. This small city clung to the edges of the plains, where the streets ended abruptly and the sky stretched wide, indifferent. I'd moved here 5 years ago, chasing a job at the local clinic, figuring the isolation might suit someone like me. Quiet nights were my routine, curled on the couch with a book, the TV murmuring low, always aware of the walls I kept up. Being a lesbian in a place like this meant careful choices. No flags on the balcony, no stories shared at the diner counter. I blended in, or tried to. Until I met Lena. It started at the corner coffee shop, the one with the chipped mugs and the barista who remembered your order. I was nursing a black coffee after a rough morning shift, complaining under my breath about a patient who'd bolted without paying. She slid into the stool next to mine, her laugh cutting through the steam. "Sounds like my last date," she said, eyes crinkling. Lena had that easy way about her, hair tied back in a loose ponytail, freckles across her nose from too many hours outside. We traded stories about the city's quirks, the mayor's endless speeches, the way traffic jammed at the single stoplight. By the time our cups were empty, we had plans for a hike the next weekend. Those hikes became our thing. We'd drive out to the trails beyond the city limits, where the dirt paths wound through scrub brush, and the air smelled of sage after rain. Lena talked freely, her steps matching mine as we climbed. Dreams of leaving this place for something bigger, frustrations with her job at the library. Stacking books felt like stacking her own stalled life, she'd say. I'd listen, nodding, sharing just enough about my days without revealing too much. The bond built slow, like roots under soil. Weekend after weekend, we'd pause at overlooks, sharing water from the same bottle, her shoulder brushing mine accidentally. I felt the pull even then, a quiet ache in my chest, but I buried it deep. She was straight, or so she seemed, spinning tales of ex-boyfriends over packed lunches. There was Mark, who ghosted after a year, then Jake, too clingy with his calls. The dating scene here was slim pickings, she joked, swiping through apps that mostly showed the same faces. I laughed along, hiding how her voice stirred something in me, how I'd catch myself watching the way her lips moved when she spoke. Everyday rituals wove us tighter. Movie nights at her place, the apartment above the hardware store with its creaky floors and mismatched furniture. We'd order pizza, sprawl on the couch under blankets that smelled faintly of her lavender soap. Secrets spilled out in the dark. Her fears of turning 30 alone, my vague admissions about family back east who didn't quite get me. We never crossed lines, though. A hug at the door, a quick squeeze of the hand during a sad scene. It felt safe, that boundary. She was my anchor in this small world, the one person who made the isolation bearable. I told myself the attraction was just fondness, nothing more. But it simmered, unspoken, in the spaces between our words. Everything felt safe, until that one stormy evening changed it all. The week before that storm hit, work dragged like a weight on my shoulders. At the clinic, patients piled up, flu season turning the waiting room into a chorus of coughs and complaints. I'd been on my feet for shifts that blurred together, charting notes under fluorescent lights that buzzed too loud. My body ached, the kind of deep fatigue that settled in your bones, making even the drive home feel endless. Lena noticed, of course. She always did. A text mid-afternoon. "You sound beat. Everything okay?" I'd reply with a thumbs-up emoji, not wanting to unload, but she'd call anyway, her voice cutting through the chaos like a cool hand on fevered skin. "Come over after," she'd say one evening, casual as breathing. "I've got wine and that show we keep missing. Unwind a bit." I hesitated, the pull toward her warring with the exhaustion, but I said yes. Her place was sanctuary, the one spot where the small city's edges soften.
By Friday, the sky had turned heavy, clouds rolling in from the plains like an uninvited guest.
I knocked on her door just as the first raindrops splattered the sidewalk, my jacket already damp. She pulled me inside with a grin, the warmth of her apartment wrapping around me like a blanket. The space was cozy in that lived-in way, books stacked on every surface, a half-knitted scarf draped over the arm of the couch, the air thick with the scent of chamomile tea, and rain-soaked earth seeping through the cracked window. Rain pounded the panes now, a steady rhythm that drowned out the distant hum of the city. She handed me a glass of red, deep and tart on my tongue, and we settled into the worn armchairs by the window, legs tucked under us. The storm made everything feel closer, the world outside shrinking to just this room.
Conversation started light, the way it always did with us. We joked about our latest blind date, set up by a coworker at the library. A guy from the next town over who talked nonstop about his truck mods.
Like, who cares about lift kits at dinner? She laughed, her head tilting back, throat exposed in the lamplight. I chuckled, sipping my wine, sharing a story about a patient who'd mistaken me for the receptionist again. City gossip flowed easy after that. The hardware store owner's affair rumors, the new cafe charging too much for lattes. Her laugh filled the space, bright against the drumming rain, and I felt the week's tension uncoil, just a little. But there was an undercurrent tonight. Her eyes lingering on mine a beat longer, the wine loosening the edges of our usual guard. As the bottle emptied, the talk turned deeper. She set her glass down, staring out at the sheets of water blurring the streetlights. I feel stuck sometimes, she said, voice quieter now, like the words had been waiting. This city. It's home, but it's like I'm circling the same paths. Work, dates that go nowhere, wondering if that's it.
Her fingers traced the rim of her glass, nails short and unpainted, and I saw the weight in her shoulders, the way she carried it alone most days. I nodded, murmuring agreement, my own frustrations bubbling up, the clinic's endless grind, the isolation of keeping parts of myself hidden. But I held back, watching her instead, the way the rain caught in her hair like tiny jewels. The warmth in the room pressed in, her knee brushing mine as she shifted, sending a spark up my leg. I pushed it down, deep as I could, telling myself it was the wine, the storm, nothing more. Affection had always simmered there, buried under layers of friendship. But tonight, it clawed closer to the surface, hot and insistent amid the cozy haze. We lingered like that, words weaving through the downpour, her confessions pulling at something raw in me. I wanted to reach out, to tell her she wasn't alone in the stuck feeling, that I'd felt it too since moving here. But restraint held me, the line we'd never crossed, the risk of shattering what we had. The rain hammered harder, wind rattling the windows, and the air between us thickened, charged like the sky outside. Then the power flickered out, forcing us closer in the dark. The lights hummed once, then died. Darkness swallowed the room, thick and sudden, leaving only the rain's relentless beat against the glass. I heard Lena's sharp intake of breath beside me, her hand fumbling for the armrest. "Shit," she muttered, the word hanging in the void. We sat there a moment, blind, the wine's warmth still buzzing in my veins. Outside, thunder rolled low, vibrating the floorboards. She shifted, her knee knocking mine again, and I felt the heat of her, close now in the black. "Wait here," she said, her voice steady despite the dark. I listened to her move, the soft pad of her socks on the rug, a drawer scraping open. Matches rasped, then flame bloomed, first one candle, then two, flickering to life on the coffee table. Wax scent mingled with the rain, sharp and sweet. She lit a third, the glow pushing back shadows that danced on the walls like hesitant partners. Her face emerged from the dim, cheeks flushed from wine or the chill seeping in, eyes catching the light. We settled back, closer on the couch now, the space between us narrowed by the outage. The candles threw gold across her skin, highlighting the curve of her jaw, the loose strands of hair escaping her ponytail. To cut the awkwardness, she suggested a game. Truth or dare, she said, grin flashing in the low light. Like old times, but without the bad decisions. I laughed, the sound easing the knot in my chest. We started easy. Truths about childhood embarrassments, dares to chug the last of the wine. Her laugh built with each round, bright against the storm's growl. I dared her to dance in the dark, and she did, swaying clumsy circles around the coffee table, arms out, shadows twisting with her. The sight pulled at me, that joy in her, free and unburdened. When my turn came, she dared me to share the worst kiss I'd ever had. I dodged with a half story about a college fling, vague enough to skirt the truth of my desires. Her eyes held mine across the flames, probing, playful. The game turned. Dares grew bolder, stand on one foot in the corner, recite a poem from memory. Laughter pulled us nearer, the couch dipping as we leaned in, faces inches apart over some forgotten truth. She asked about my dreams, real ones, the kind that wake you sweating. I spoke of running, endless fields under a wide sky, but my gaze stuck on her mouth, the way it parted when she listened. The air thickened, candles guttering, wax pooling like secrets. Your turn, I whispered, voice rough. Dare. She paused, then said, kiss the back of my hand, like in those old movies. It was innocent, teasing, but my pulse thudded hard. I took her hand, palm up, skin warm and slightly calloused from shelving books. My lips brushed the knuckles, soft, lingering a second too long. She didn't pull away. The room shrank to that touch, rain fading to a hush. When I looked up, her face was close, breath mingling with mine, eyes wide in the candlelight. The dare forgotten, we hovered there, drawn by some invisible thread. I leaned in, meaning to tease back, to mirror her playfulness. But the dark played tricks, the couch shifted, and suddenly, our lips met. Accidental, a brush at first, her mouth yielding soft against mine. Time froze. The contact sparked, electric, her lips full and warm, tasting of wine and salt. Neither of us moved right away. My heart slammed, a wild thing caged, as the softness pressed, held for a breath that stretched eternal. Her hand tightened on mine, not pushing, not pulling, just there. The world narrowed to that point, her breath hitching, the faint tremble in her frame. Heat flooded me, desire uncoiling sharp and deep, the boundary we'd towed for years shattered in an instant, then reality crashed back. We pulled apart, slow, eyes locking in the dim, her pupils blown wide, surprise etching her features, cheeks burning red. I searched her face. Shock, yes, but something else flickered, a spark not dimmed. Oh God, she breathed, hand flying to her mouth, fingers tracing where mine had been. Awkward laughter bubbled up, mine forced, hers shaky, masking the charge still humming between us. That was clumsy, I said, voice cracking, forcing normalcy. She nodded, too quick, tucking hair behind her ear, but her gaze darted away, then back, wide with unspoken questions. The candles burned lower, shadows lengthening, the air thick with what we'd brushed against. We talked after, stilted, about the storm, the power company, anything but the moment. Laughter came in fits, brittle, as we cleared glasses, avoided touch. When the lights finally flickered on, harsh and revealing, the spell broke. She walked me to the door, rain easing to a drizzle, the night air cool on my flushed skin. Night, she said, hug quick, arms loose around my shoulders. I nodded, words stuck, the taste of her lingering like a bruise. The door clicked shut behind me, leaving the unspoken heavy in the hall. Morning light brought the real agony crashing down. Sunlight sliced through the blinds, harsh on my eyelids. I jolted awake, sheets tangled around my legs, body slick with sweat. The dream clung, her lips on mine, not accidental but deliberate, pulling me under. I could still feel the press, the warmth blooming slow. My chest heaved, breath ragged in the quiet room. The clock read 6:47 a.m., too early for the shift ahead, but sleep was gone. I lay there, staring at the ceiling cracks, replaying the night. The blackout, the game, that slip. Her eyes in the candlelight, wide, not recoiling. What had I done? The apartment felt smaller, walls pressing in. I swung my legs off the bed, feet hitting the cold floor, and padded to the kitchen. Coffee brewed, black and bitter, but it did nothing to wash the taste from my mouth. Her taste. Wine and something sweeter, like the rain outside. My phone buzzed on the counter, her name lighting the screen. A good morning text. Simple. Hey, survived the storm? Hope you got home okay. Casual, like always, but the ellipsis at the end stretched, hiding something. I typed back, thumbs hesitant. Yeah, all good. You? No mention of it. No about last night. Relief mixed with ache. Was she pretending? Or had it meant nothing to her? I showered hot, steam fogging the mirror, but when I wiped it clear, my reflection stared back. Eyes shadowed, lips still swollen in memory. I touched them, fingers tracing the ghost of contact. Who was I now? The friend who'd crossed a line, accidental or not. In this small city, boundaries mattered. One whisper and the clinic gossip would spread, painting me as the one who prayed. Her straight world, boyfriends, easy dates, didn't bend for moments like that. I leaned closer, water dripping from my hair, questioning the flesh on my cheeks. Had I imagined the linger? The way she hadn't pulled away first? The mirror lied, or maybe it showed too much. The want I'd buried for years, now cracked open. Work called, pulling me out. I dressed quick, scrubs crisp, hair tied back, and drove the familiar streets, past the coffee shop where we'd met, the library where she shelved dreams. The clinic buzzed already, phones ringing, patients in chairs with magazines. I dove in, charting vitals, handing out scripts, the routine a shield. Blood pressure's up, I'd say to Mrs. Harlan, smiling through the fog. But her face intruded. Lena's, not the patient's. During a lull, restocking supplies, my mind replayed the brush, the freeze. Softness yielding, breath shared. Distractions failed, the exam room walls closed in, echoing that dark room. A colleague asked if I was okay, voice concerned. Just tired, I lied, stacking gauze like it could bury the memory. Mid-morning, she called. I stepped into the hall, phone to ear, heart thudding before I even spoke. Hey, her voice came, lighter than expected, but laced with pauses. Just checking in. Busy day? Not direct, like before. No easy flow, no teasing about the wine. Hesitation threaded each word, as if she weighed them first. I gripped the receiver, leaning against the cool wall. Yeah, the usual chaos. You? She laughed, short, about a late book return, but it rang hollow. The line crackled, silence stretching. Was she thinking of it too? The accidental press, the spark? I wanted to ask, to crack the normalcy, but fear clamped my throat. Talk later? She said finally, rushed. Click. The hall spun a little, her uncertainty mirroring mine, amplifying the pull. Lunch came, but I skipped the break room, walking instead. The small city's streets wound tight, familiar spots mocking me. Past the park where we'd picnicked, her laughter echoing in my head. The hardware store below her apartment, stairs I'd climbed 100 times. Rain puddles reflected the gray sky, my boots splashing through. Mind elsewhere, I nearly missed the crosswalk, cars honking. Turmoil churned, want clashing with dread. What if she saw me different now? The lesbian friend who'd slipped, ruining the safe space we'd built. Her world of men, casual and straight, didn't include this. But the dream, the text, the call, they hinted at cracks in that world. I turned a corner, wind sharp on my face, the city holding its breath with me. Back at the clinic, afternoon dragged, patience blurring. Every buzz of my phone jolted me, but it was just work alerts. Her absence gnawed, the unspoken growing heavier. I bandaged a kid's scraped knee, gentle, but my thoughts wandered to her hands, how they'd felt in the dark. The shift ended late, sun dipping low, casting long shadows on the lot.
Driving home, the streets echoed the inner storm, tight turns mirroring my spiraling doubts. The apartment waited, empty again, the memory waiting too. Days blurred into a pattern of dodging the truth. The days stretched, each one a careful dance around the truth. Texts came sporadic now, her replies short, clipped like wire. Busy today, she'd send when I ask about grabbing coffee. No follow-up question, no emoji to soften it. I'd stare at the screen, thumb hovering, crafting messages that never landed. Miss our hikes, I typed once, then deleted. Too much. Canceled plans piled up, her suggesting movie night, then bailing with a vague, work ran late. I stopped asking after the third time, the silence settling heavy between us. In this small city, avoidance wasn't easy. Paths crossed inevitable, but we navigated around them like storm debris. Nights alone became my routine. The apartment, a dim cave of overthinking. I'd pace the kitchen after shifts, replaying every glance from that night. The way her eyes widened post-kiss, holding mine a beat too long. Was it revulsion or curiosity flickering there? The candlelight had played tricks, but memory sharpened it. Her lips parting slightly, breath warm. I sank onto the couch, blanket pulled tight, the fabric rough against my skin like unsaid words. Isolation clawed in, the quiet amplifying doubts. Had I imagined the spark? Her straight life, exes, dates, left no room for this slip. I traced patterns on the armrest, body tense, the ache low and insistent, fearing I'd poisoned the one real connection here. Sightings happened, unavoidable in a place this tight. Crossing the square one afternoon, past the fountain where we'd sat summers ago, I spotted her at the market stall, selecting apples with deliberate care. Our eyes met across the crowd, hers startled, mine frozen. She raised a hand, wave awkward, half-hearted, like testing water. I mirrored it, smile forced, heart thudding against ribs. The distance felt vast, though she was yards away. The air between us charged with what we'd dodged. Another time, near the library steps, she emerged as I walked by, books clutched to her chest. "Hey," she called, voice tentative. I nodded, quick steps carrying me past, no stop for chat. Her gaze followed, I felt it on my back, prickling like sun through clouds. Each encounter left me drained, dissecting the micro-expressions, a furrow in her brow, lips pressed thin. Disgust, or the weight of her own questions. Questions swirled in my head, endless loops. Was it disgust twisting her features, or something more? Intrigue she couldn't name. I'd lie awake, ceiling fan whirring slow, imagining her alone too, fingers on her mouth, reliving the brush. The softness, the unintended yield. In her straight world, men had been safe, predictable. This accidental taste, different, maybe unsettling in ways she hadn't expected. I wondered if she replayed it like I did, the freeze where neither pulled away. The small city's whispers amplified it all. No escape, just echoes in shared spaces. Her eyes in those glimpses, they lingered now, not quite avoiding, pulling me in despite the gap. Clues came through her social media. Late night scrolls, my guilty habit. Posts popped up, vague but pointed. Quotes about unexpected turns, overlaying rainy street photos, the same paths we'd walked. One night, a rant. When something shakes what you thought you knew, how do you even start? No tags, no details, but the timing screamed. Emotional spills, rawer than her usual light shares. A song lyric about hidden desires, the kind that hits low. I read them in bed, phone glow casting blue on my face, heart squeezing. Was the kiss stirring her? Questioning the men who'd come before, their roughness against this new softness. I bookmarked them, not liking, afraid to signal. The posts fueled my isolation, hope flickering amid the fear, her confusion mirroring mine. Coping came in fragments, journaling by lamplight, pen scratching pages with desires I'd never voiced. Her lips were warm, not like the dreams, but real, I'd write, hand cramping, the words a release and a cage. Fear gnawed deepest, losing the bond, the hikes, the late talks that anchored me. Without her, the city shrank smaller, walls higher. I'd burn the pages sometimes, ash curling in the sink, but the thought stayed, body heavy with want, mind tangled in what-ifs. Nights blurred, coffee cold, the avoidance a slow bleed on our friendship.
The silence broke when she showed up, unannounced. The knock came sharp, pulling me from the sink where I'd been scrubbing dishes to drown the quiet. It was evening, the small city's lights flickering on through my window, casting long shadows across the floor. I wiped my hands on a towel, heart kicking up before I even reached the door. Peering through the peephole, there she was, Lena, standing under the hall light, arms crossed tight over her chest like she was holding herself together. Her hair hung loose, damp from a light mist outside, and her eyes searched the door, wide and uncertain. I hesitated, hand on the knob, the avoidance we'd built cracking at the seams. Then I opened it. She stepped in without a word at first, the door clicking shut behind her like a held breath released. The apartment smelled of coffee grounds and faint rain, and she paused in the entry, glancing around as if mapping the changes since last we'd been easy here. "I needed to see you," she said finally, voice low, almost swallowed by the hum of the fridge. We moved to the couch, the same one from movie nights, but now it felt charged, the cushions dipping under our weight. She sat with knees together, hands clasped, knuckles white. I waited, pulse thudding in my ears, the air between us thick as the fog rolling in off the plains. It started hesitant, words stumbling out like stones down a hill. "That night," she said, eyes on her lap. "The kiss. It's been in my head. Not just the accident of it, but how it felt." She looked up then, gaze locking mine, raw and searching. The candlelight from memory flickered in her expression, surprise softened to something deeper. I nodded slow, not pushing, just there, the room narrowing to her voice. She shifted, boot tapping the rug, the sound steady against the quiet. I keep replaying it, the way it happened, soft, not like anything before. Her past spilled next, reflections she'd clearly turned over alone. "All those guys," she murmured, leaning back, the couch creaking. Mark with his rough hands, always rushing. Jake, too, grabbing like it was a race. It was fine, you know? Safe in a way. But looking back, it feels hollow now. Like I was going through motions, chasing what everyone said was right. She traced a finger along the armrest, nail catching the fabric, her face tightening. The small city's expectations hung there unspoken. Marry local, settle with a man, fit the mold. I'd seen it in her stories, the dates she endured more than enjoyed, the sighs after failed setups. Now those memories twisted, hollowed out by this new crack in her certainty. Curiosity edged in, her voice dropping, softer, confiding. "But you, that brush of lips, it was different. Soft, like tasting something real for the first time. Intriguing, in a way that scares me. Warm, not forceful. I didn't hate it. I liked it." She flushed, cheeks pink in the lamplight, eyes darting to the window where streetlights blurred the night. The appeal lingered in her words, the taste of softness pulling at her straight lines, bending them unexpected. I watched her mouth form the admission, the same lips I'd felt, and heat coiled low in me, restrained. She described it halting, the linger, the spark that didn't fade, how it replayed in quiet moments, stirring questions she'd never asked. Vulnerability poured out then, shared like a weight lifted. "In this place," she said, gesturing vaguely at the walls, the city beyond, "with all the whispers, the looks if you step out of line, questioning labels feels like cracking open a door you can't close." Conservative currents ran deep here, church talks on Sundays bleeding into diner chats, judging anything that didn't align. She'd navigated it easy before, straight and unremarked, but now the kiss had stirred the undercurrent, making her wonder about women, about me.
What does that even mean? She asked, voice cracking, leaning forward, elbows on knees. Am I different now? Or was it just you? The words hung, heavy with the fear of small city eyes, the isolation of not fitting.
Hope flickered in me, sharp and bright, as I listened without interrupting, heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird.
Her eyes held mine, not pulling away. The searching turning to something warmer, tentative. I wanted to reach out, to trace that flush on her skin, but I stayed still, letting her words settle. The room felt alive with it, rain pattering faint outside, the scent of her damp coat mixing with my soap. For the first time since that night, the gap between us narrowed, her struggle mirroring mine, pulling us closer in the confession.
But my own obsession was eating me alive underneath. Her words hung in the air after she left, the door clicking shut like a lock on my chest. I stood there in the dim hall, hand still on the knob, her scent clinging, damp wool and faint lavender from her skin. It stirred everything I'd pushed down since that night, the obsession uncoiling tighter. Sleep evaded me that night, and the ones after. I'd lie in the dark, sheets twisted around my legs, the fan's whir mocking the silence. The moment replayed endless, our lips meeting, soft yield, her breath catching against mine. Body ached with it, low and insistent, heat pooling where want lived deepest. I'd shift, hand pressing my stomach, trying to still the throb, but it only sharpened the memory. Her warmth, real, not dream. Dawn crept in gray through the blinds, leaving me hollow-eyed, the small city's quiet pressing heavier. Days ground on, triggers everywhere, pulling me back.
The coffee shop corner where we'd first laughed, now empty when I passed, steam from mugs reminding me of her easy grin. I'd pause outside, rain slick on the window, watching strangers sip while my mind traced her freckles, the way her mouth curved. Worse were the old clothes, her borrowed sweater from a hike, folded in my drawer, lavender faint but there, like her ghost on my skin. I'd pull it out some evenings, bury my face in the wool, inhaling deep, the fibers rough against my cheek. Want twisted sharp, body responding unbidden, thighs clenching against the ache. The apartment walls closed in, echoing her voice from that visit, her admission of the softness's appeal. But what now? Had I imagined the pull in her eyes, or was it real, bending her straight lines toward me? Fear gnawed constant, rejection's shadow long. I'd picture it vivid, her pulling away forever, doors slamming on our hikes, the couch confessions. Her at the library, avoiding my calls, the small city's whispers turning her against me. What were you thinking? She'd say in my head, voice cold, the spark dimmed to disgust. Body tensed at the thought, muscles taut like wire, sleep shattered by visions of her with some guy again, safe in her old world, me erased. The ache deepened, not just want, but loss. Losing the one who saw me, walls down, in this isolated place. I'd pace the kitchen, boots scuffing the linoleum, coffee going cold, the fear a weight dragging my steps. Self-doubt spiraled, questions burrowing deep. Was the friendship ever real, or just my projection, burying desire under laughs? I'd stare at old photos on my phone, us on trails, her arm slung casual over my shoulder, grin wide. Did she feel it then, the undercurrent? Or was I the fool, reading softness into straight lines? Her visit replayed too, her words about hollowness with men, the intrigue of my touch. But doubt whispered louder. Maybe it was pity, or confusion she'll shake off. Mirror caught me mornings, eyes shadowed, lips pressed thin. Who was this woman, obsessing over a slip, body betraying with every recall? The small city's confines amplified it. No big anonymity, just familiar faces judging silent. Shared circles trapped me tighter. No escape in this web of streets. The clinic overlapped her world, patients mentioning library events, a coworker spotting her at the market. I'd nod through chats, mind elsewhere, the confinement like dust settling heavy. Grocery runs turned tense, aisles where we'd bumped carts joking, now solo, scanning shelves for her shadow. The plains beyond called, wide and open, but work chained me, shifts blurring into nights of isolation. Yet glimpses came, change flickering in chance encounters. Crossing the square one dusk, eyes met hers across the fountain, lingering, not the quick wave of before. Her gaze held, soft, a question in the tilt of her head, pulling at me despite the gap. Another time, near the park path, she slowed as I passed, lips parting like words waited, but we moved on, the look burning in my wake.
Those moments fueled the torment, hope clashing with dread, body alive with possibility, mind fractured. The obsession ate steady, want sharpening to need, her scent, her voice, her unintended yield weaving through every hour. The small city's edges blurred my edges, too. No room to breathe without her echo. Finally, the wait forced a confrontation we couldn't avoid. The text came mid-afternoon, simple but loaded. Park? Now. Need to talk. My shift ended early for once, the clinic quiet after a rush of walk-ins. I drove straight there, the small city's streets winding familiar under the fading sun, golden light slanting across the dashboard. The park sat at the edge, where pavement gave way to grass and the plains stretched beyond. Our bench waited by the old oak, the one we'd claimed for picnics, its wood worn smooth from years. I arrived first, sitting with hands clasped, the air cooling as shadows lengthened. Birds called sharp overhead, the sound cutting the quiet knot in my gut. She appeared down the path, steps deliberate, her coat loose over jeans and boots scuffed from walks we'd taken. Lena's face held that searching look again, hair catching the last rays like copper threads. She sat beside me, close but not touching, the bench creaking under our weight. Silence stretched first, thick as the dusk settling. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in bruised oranges, and I felt the words building in her, in me. I can't keep dodging this, she said finally, voice low, eyes on the horizon where city met fields. That kiss, it's not just stuck in my head. It's changing things. Her fingers twisted in her lap, nails digging crescents into palms, the small movements betraying the storm inside. Confession spilled from her then, words tumbling like stones loosened from a wall. It awakened something, she admitted, turning to face me, gaze unflinching now. Questions about women, about what I've missed. All those years with men, it was expected. Rough edges, quick ends. But you, that softness, the way it lingered without force, it felt right in a way nothing else has. Like tasting air after being underwater too long. She paused, breath catching, the vulnerability raw in the fading light. Her cheeks flushed, not from cold, but the weight of saying it aloud in this place, where whispers traveled fast. The kiss had cracked her straight world open, stirring curiosity she'd buried under safe choices, the appeal of women now a pull she couldn't ignore. I watched her mouth form the truths, the same lips that had brushed mine, and heat coiled slow in my chest, mixing with the ache of waiting. My turn came. Admission mutual, the dam breaking. I felt it longer, I said, voice steady despite the thud in my ribs. Not just that night. The hikes, the talks, you pulled at me from the start. Buried it deep because you're my friend, my anchor here. But the kiss? It wasn't all accident for me. I wanted it, even if I didn't plan it. Words hung between us, honest and heavy, the long-held feelings laid bare under the oak's branches. Her eyes widened, not in shock, but recognition, like pieces fitting. The small city's confines faded for a moment, just us on the bench, the emotional release flooding in. Relief sharp as the cooling air, but laced with the uncertainty of what came next. Tension built as we sat there, the space narrowing. Her hand moved first, tentative, fingers brushing mine on the wood. Skin met skin, warm and real, testing the new boundary we'd towed for so long. I turned my palm up, lacing ours together, the calluses from her library shifts rough against my smoother ones. Pulse raced where we touched, a current humming, her thumb tracing slow circles on my knuckle. We leaned closer, breaths sinking, the sun's last light gilding her face. No rush, just the press of hands, the quiet exploration of possibility. Her free hand rose, hesitating at my cheek, then cupping it light, thumb grazing my jaw. The touch sparked, echoing that night, but deliberate now, eyes locked in the dimming gold. Resolution hinted in whispers after, agreement forged in the dusk. "We take it slow," she said, squeezing my hand, voice firm amid the softening world. "Figure this out together. No labels yet. Just us." I nodded, the words a lifeline in the uncertainty. Her questions about women, my buried want, navigating the small city's watchful eyes side by side. No promises of easy paths, but the togetherness eased the torment, a quiet pact under the oak. Emotional payoff washed through me, relief loosening the knot in my chest, body relaxing into the bench. But lingering doubt threaded it. Would the whispers catch us? The straight world she'd known pulling back? Yet in her grip it felt possible, the ache shifting to something warmer, hopeful. We rose as stars pricked the sky, hands still linked, walking the path back to the streets. The city lights bloomed softer somehow, blurring at the edges, the plains dark and vast beyond. We walked those last blocks in silence, her hand warm in mine, fingers interlaced like roots finding soil after a long dry spell. The small city's lights flickered on one by one, casting soft pools on the sidewalk, the rain-slick streets reflecting them back in fractured gold. Her palm pressed against my own, a quiet promise. No grand declarations, just the steady thrum of her pulse matching mine. In that grip, the torment eased, the obsession shifting to something shared, tentative but real. The plains loomed dark beyond the edges, vast and unjudging, whispering of paths we might take together. Her thumb brushed my knuckle once, light as breath, and I felt the world expand, the isolation cracking under the weight of possibility. No more dodging shadows, no more buried aches. Just us, stepping into the night, hands held against whatever came next. If this stirred something in you, the ache of unspoken want, the fear of crossing lines in a place that watches close, share your story below. Those raw truths connect us. And if you want more tales like this, of Sapphic hearts finding their way through the quiet storms, subscribe now. Hit that button and let's keep walking these paths together.